The rain hammered against the windows of Riverside Community Hospital with relentless fury. Emma Victoria pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders as she walked through the dimly lit corridors, her footsteps echoing against the worn linoleum floors. The late shift was always quiet, but tonight felt different. The storm outside seemed to carry an ominous warning that made her skin prickle with unease. At 28 years old, Emma had dedicated 6 years of her life to nursing. She had chosen this small hospital in the suburbs because she believed in serving her community. Even though the pay was modest and the equipment outdated, her grandmother had raised her with simple values: help others without expecting anything in return, and always follow your heart. "Emma, we might have incoming," called Dr. Patricia Moore from the emergency room entrance. The older doctor's voice carried tension that was unusual for her normally calm demeanor. "Got a call about an accident on Highway 52? Sounds serious?" Emma immediately began preparing the trauma bay, checking supplies and setting up equipment. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, but her mind wandered. Something about tonight felt wrong. The storm, the eerie silence between thunderclaps, the way even the fluorescent lights seemed to flicker with uncertainty. The sound of screeching tires interrupted her thoughts. Through the rain-streaked windows, she saw not an ambulance, but 3 black vehicles pulling up to the emergency entrance. Men in dark suits emerged, moving with military precision despite the downpour. They were carrying someone between them. The emergency doors burst open. 4 men entered, soaking wet, their expensive suits ruined by rain and mud. But Emma's attention fixed on the man they carried. He was tall, probably over 6 feet, with dark hair plastered to his forehead. His white shirt was soaked crimson with blood, and his face was pale but still striking. Even unconscious and injured, he possessed a presence that filled the room. "Please, you have to help him," one of the men said urgently. His voice carried authority, despite the desperation. "He's been shot twice." Emma's training took over immediately. "Put him on the gurney. Dr. Moore, we need you now." She began cutting away the bloody shirt, revealing 2 gunshot wounds. One in the upper chest, dangerously close to the heart. Another in his side, still bleeding heavily. "Who is he?" Dr. Moore asked while examining the wounds. "We need to call the police for gunshot injuries." "No police," the man who had spoken earlier said firmly. He was older, perhaps 50, with gray hair and eyes that had seen violence. "We'll handle this privately. Just save his life. Name your price." Emma looked up sharply. "We don't need your money. We need answers. Who shot him? That's not your concern, miss. Your concern is keeping him alive." Something in the man's tone made Emma bristle, but she pushed her questions aside. A life hung in the balance, and that was all that mattered. "Dr. Moore, we need to operate now." The chest wound could have punctured a lung. For the next 3 hours, Emma and Dr. Moore fought to save the stranger's life. The men in suits watched from behind the glass partition, their faces grim. Emma barely noticed them. Her entire focus narrowed to the man on the table, his breathing shallow, his heartbeat irregular on the monitor. She worked with steady hands, assisting Dr. Moore as they extracted bullets, repaired damaged tissue, and closed wounds. The man was strong. Despite massive blood loss, he fought to survive. Emma found herself silently encouraging him, willing him to hold on. As dawn broke, the surgery was complete. The stranger was stable but unconscious, his chest rising and falling with the help of oxygen. Emma stood beside his bed, exhausted but satisfied. She had done her job. "Thank you," the gray-haired man said, approaching her. "You saved his life." "My name is Robert Hayes. The man you saved is Daniel Cross." The name meant nothing to Emma. He needs rest and monitoring. "The next 48 hours are critical. We'll move him to a private facility once he's stable enough." "He shouldn't be moved for at least a week," Emma protested. "The chest wound alone requires constant observation." Robert studied her for a long moment. "You don't know who Daniel Cross is, do you?" "Should I?" A ghost of a smile crossed his weathered face. "Most people in this city would recognize the name. Daniel Cross owns half the commercial real estate downtown. He's also involved in businesses that operate in gray areas of the law, and he has enemies who would kill him without hesitation." Emma felt cold despite the warm hospital air. What kind of enemies? The kind who will come looking for anyone who helped him, including you. The words hung in the air like a threat. Emma looked down at the unconscious man, at Daniel Cross, whose life she had just saved. His face was peaceful in sleep, almost vulnerable. She noticed details she had missed during the surgery. The strong line of his jaw, the slight scar above his left eyebrow, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead. "I was just doing my job," she said quietly. "That won't matter to them," Robert replied. "The Castillo brothers, the ones who ordered the hit, they'll want to eliminate any witnesses, any loose ends. You became a loose end the moment you touched him." Emma's heart began to race. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm warning you. There's a difference." Robert handed her a business card. "If anything unusual happens, anyone asks questions about tonight, call this number immediately, day or night." After Robert and his men left, taking positions outside the hospital, Emma sat beside Daniel's bed. The storm had passed, leaving behind a quiet dawn. Through the window, she could see the first rays of sunlight breaking through the clouds. Painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Daniel stirred slightly, his eyelids fluttering. For a brief moment, his eyes opened. They were striking a deep green that seemed to see right through her. He tried to speak, but no words came. His hand moved weakly, and instinctively, Emma took it in hers. "You're safe," she whispered. "Just rest." His fingers tightened slightly around hers before he slipped back into unconsciousness. That brief touch sent an unexpected warmth through Emma's body. Connection she couldn't explain. She stayed with him until her shift ended, watching over him like a guardian. When she finally left the hospital as morning turned to midday, she was exhausted, but unable to shake the feeling that her life had just changed in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Emma drove home through streets washed clean by the storm, her mind replaying the night's events. Who was Daniel Cross really? What kind of man lived a life where people wanted him dead? And why did she feel such a strong pull toward a stranger she had only just met? Her small house on Maple Street had never looked more welcoming. Emma parked her car and walked up the path, noticing how the storm had scattered leaves and branches across her yard. She would clean that up after sleeping. Right now, all she wanted was her bed. Inside, she kicked off her shoes and headed straight for the bedroom. She didn't bother changing out of her scrubs. Sleep claimed her the moment her head hit the pillow, pulling her into dreams filled with green eyes and the sound of rain. She had no idea that while she slept, Robert Hayes was making phone calls and setting plans in motion. She had no idea that the Castillo brothers had already learned about a nurse who had saved Daniel Cross's life. And she had no idea that when she woke up, her quiet life would be over. The sun was high when Emma finally opened her eyes. For a moment, she lay still, enjoying the peaceful silence. Then she heard it. Voices. Many voices. Coming from outside her house, she got out of bed and walked to the window, pulling back the curtain. What she saw made her heart stop. Her small street was filled with vehicles. Black SUVs lined both sides of the road. Men in dark suits stood everywhere, at least 200 of them, forming a protective perimeter around her house. Neighbors peeked through windows and doors, their faces filled with fear and curiosity. Emma's hands trembled as she backed away from the window. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a nightmare. But when she looked again, they were still there. An army of men, all watching her house. Her phone rang, making her jump. She grabbed it with shaking hands. Unknown number. "Hello. Miss Victoria, this is Robert Hayes. Please don't be alarmed by the men outside. Don't be alarmed. There are hundreds of armed men surrounding my house. They're there to protect you. The Castillo brothers made their move faster than we anticipated. They sent people to your hospital this morning asking questions. We had to act quickly." Emma sank onto her bed, her legs unable to support her. "This can't be real. I'm afraid it is very real. Daniel Cross wants to see you. We're sending a car to bring you to him. You'll be safe there. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want my life back." Robert's voice softened. "I understand, Miss Victoria, but that life ended the moment you saved Daniel's life. Now you have two choices. Come with us where we can protect you, or stay here and wait for the Castillo brothers to find you. And they will find you. Emma looked around her bedroom at the life she had built. Family photos on the dresser, books stacked on the nightstand, the quilt her grandmother had made. Everything familiar and safe. But that safety was an illusion now. How long? She asked quietly. How long will I need protection? Until the threat is eliminated. Could be days. Could be weeks. Emma closed her eyes, fighting back tears. She thought of Daniel Cross lying in that hospital bed, his hand gripping hers. She had saved his life. Now he was trying to save hers. Give me 15 minutes to pack, she said finally, as she packed a small bag with trembling hands. Emma Victoria understood that she was leaving behind more than just her house. She was leaving behind the person she had been, stepping into a world she didn't understand, toward a man she barely knew. But something deep inside told her this was the path she was meant to walk. Outside, 200 men waited to escort her into a future she couldn't predict, toward a destiny written in the storm's fury, sealed with her compassion for a wounded stranger. Emma Victoria sat in the back of the armored vehicle, watching her neighborhood disappear through tinted windows. Robert Hayes sat across from her, his expression unreadable. The convoy of black SUVs moved through the city like a dark river, attracting stares from pedestrians and other drivers. Where are we going? Emma asked, breaking the heavy silence. To one of Daniel's properties. A secure estate, outside the city limits. It's the safest place right now. McKenna clutched her small bag tighter. I need to call the hospital. Tell them I won't be coming in for my shifts. Already taken care of. We told them you had a family emergency out of state. Dr. Moore was understanding. The fact that they had already controlled that part of her life made Emma feel both grateful and trapped. She watched the city give way to rolling hills and estates hidden behind stone walls and iron gates. This was a world she had only glimpsed from a distance, never imagining she would enter it. After 30 minutes, they turned onto a private road lined with oak trees. At the end stood a sprawling mansion, 3 stories of limestone and glass that looked like something from a magazine. Gardens stretched in every direction, maintained with precision. Fountains sparkled in the afternoon sun. This is where Daniel lives? Emma breathed. One of several properties, but this is his favorite. His sanctuary. The vehicle stopped at the main entrance. Robert opened her door and helped her out. Emma felt small standing before the massive wooden doors, carved with intricate designs. A woman in her 50s, elegant in a simple black dress, greeted them. Miss Victoria, welcome. I'm Helen, the head of household staff. Please, come inside. You must be exhausted. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that Emma suspected was original and priceless. But despite the luxury, there was warmth here. Fresh flowers filled vases. Sunlight streamed through tall windows. It felt lived in, not like a museum. Mr. Cross is resting in his private suite, Helen explained, as they climbed a curved staircase. The doctors transferred him here 2 hours ago. He's been asking for you. Asking for me? Why? Helen smiled knowingly. You'll have to ask him yourself. They stopped at a door on the 2nd floor. Robert knocked softly before opening it. The suite beyond was larger than Emma's entire house. A sitting area with comfortable furniture, a wall of books, doors leading to what she assumed was a bedroom and bathroom. And there, standing by the window, despite his injuries, was Daniel Cross. He wore dark pants and a white shirt, open at the collar, with bandages visible beneath. His face still held some pallor, but his green eyes were alert and focused entirely on her. He was even more striking in daylight, tall and broad-shouldered, with features that combined strength and intelligence. Emma Victoria, he said, his voice deep and warm. Thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. A slight smile touched his lips. No, I suppose you didn't. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about all of this, he gestured around them. You saved my life, and I've repaid you by turning yours upside down. Why am I really here? What do you want from me? Daniel moved slowly to one of the chairs, wincing slightly. The injury clearly pained him more than he wanted to show. The truth? I need you close where I can protect you. The Castillo brothers are dangerous, and they won't stop until they eliminate anyone connected to me. Robert explained that, but there must be another way. Witness protection? Or I could just leave the country. They have reach everywhere, Robert interjected. Resources, connections. Running won't save you. Emma sank into a chair, the weight of her situation pressing down. So what happens now? I just stay here indefinitely? Daniel leaned forward, his intense gaze holding hers. I have a plan to end the Castillo brothers' threat permanently, but it will take time. Until then, yes, you stay here, under my protection. And what exactly does that mean? It means you're safe within these walls. You have freedom to move about the estate, use any of the facilities. Helen will see to your every need, but you cannot leave the grounds, and you cannot contact anyone from your old life. The finality in his words made Emma's chest tighten. My old life. You make it sound like that person is dead. Not dead, Daniel said softly. Just on hold. I promise you, Emma, once this is over, you can return to everything you knew. Your home, your job, your friends. I'll make sure of it. How can you promise that? You don't even know me. Ow. I know you saved my life when you could have walked away. I know you worked on me for 3 hours without stopping, even though my men probably terrified you. I know you have a good heart. His voice dropped lower. And I know I owe you a debt I can never fully repay. Something in his words, in the way he looked at her, made Emma's heart beat faster. This wasn't just about obligation. There was something else, an unspoken connection that had formed in that trauma room. I need some air, she said abruptly, standing. Helen will show you to the gardens, Daniel offered. They are quite beautiful this time of year. Emma followed Helen outside, desperate to escape the intensity of Daniel's presence. The gardens were indeed beautiful, with walking paths winding through roses, lavender, and flowering trees she couldn't name. She found a bench beneath a willow tree and sat, trying to process everything. Her life had been simple. Work at the hospital, care for patients, go home to her small house, read books, tend her modest garden. Now she was trapped in a gilded cage, connected to a man who operated outside the law, hunted by killers she couldn't see. Mind if I join you? Emma looked up to find Daniel approaching slowly, clearly in pain but determined. Should you be walking around? Probably not. But I couldn't let you sit here alone, thinking you're a prisoner. He sat beside her, careful of his injuries. I know this is overwhelming. That's an understatement. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to birds singing and water trickling from a nearby fountain. Emma snuck glances at him, noticing details. The way his dark hair caught the sunlight. The strong hands resting on his knees. The slight furrow between his brows that suggested he carried heavy burdens. Tell me about yourself, Daniel said suddenly. Your life before all this. Why do you care? Because you're here because of me. The least I can do is know who you are. Emma considered refusing, but something about the quiet gardens and his genuine interest made her open up. She told him about growing up with her grandmother after her parents died in an accident. About choosing nursing because she wanted to help people the way doctors had tried to help her parents. About her small house, her simple pleasures, her dreams of someday traveling. Daniel listened intently, asking questions, seeming genuinely interested. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. You live a good life, he said finally. Clean, honest, meaningful. Everything mine isn't. What do you mean? He gestured vaguely at the estate around them. All this wealth, all this power, it came with a price. Compromises, deals with dangerous people, living in constant threat. Sometimes I wonder if it was worth it. Then why do you continue? Because it's all I know now, and because there are people depending on me. Employees, families, whole communities built around my businesses. He looked at her directly. But meeting you, seeing how you live, it reminds me there's another way. Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks under his gaze. I'm nothing special. Just a nurse doing her job. You're wrong. You're everything I've forgotten how to be. Good, compassionate, brave. His hand moved as if to touch hers, but stopped. These past few days, thinking about you, wondering if you were safe. It's made me feel something I haven't felt in years. What's that? Hope that maybe I can be better. That maybe all this darkness I've lived in doesn't have to be permanent. Emma's breath caught. The vulnerability in his voice, the honesty in his eyes, broke through her defenses. She'd been trying to see him as just another patient, just another problem to solve. But he was more than that. He was a man who had lost his way and was reaching out for something to guide him back. "Daniel," she began, but voices calling his name interrupted them. Robert appeared, his face grim. "Sir, we have a situation. The Castillo brothers just made a move. They hit one of our warehouses downtown. 3 of our people are dead." The soft, vulnerable man disappeared, replaced by someone hard and dangerous. He stood, ignoring the pain it caused. "Gather everyone. War room in 10 minutes? Daniel, you need to rest," Emma protested. "Rest will have to wait." He looked down at her, and for a moment, the softness returned. "Stay here. In the gardens. You're safe here." Then he was gone, moving quickly despite his injuries. Back into the world of violence and power, Emma sat alone. Realizing she had just glimpsed 2 sides of Daniel Cross, the businessman who commanded armies of men, who fought brutal wars for territory and power, and the man beneath who yearned for something better, something pure. As evening fell, Emma returned to her assigned room. It was luxurious beyond anything she had experienced, with a 4-poster bed, a private bathroom with a soaking tub, and a balcony overlooking the gardens. Helen had brought fresh clothes in her size, designer labels Emma recognized from magazines. She tried to settle in, to accept her new reality, but sleep wouldn't come. Around midnight, she ventured out of her room, drawn by voices coming from downstairs. Following the sound, she found herself outside a room where Daniel was meeting with his people. Through the partially open door, she could see maps on walls, men pointing at locations. Heated discussions about strategy and retaliation. Daniel stood at the center, commanding, decisive, every inch the powerful man Robert had described. This was his world, and it was nothing like hers. Emma was about to return to her room when Daniel looked up and saw her. Their eyes met across the distance, and something passed between them. A recognition, an understanding, a pull neither could explain. He excused himself and came to her. "Can't sleep? Too much to think about. Walk with me." They walked through the quiet mansion, neither speaking, just being together. Daniel led her to a library, walls lined with books from floor to ceiling. A fire burned in the fireplace, casting dancing shadows. "My grandfather built this room," Daniel said, running his hand along the bookshelves. He believed every house should have a heart, a place where knowledge and wisdom lived. This was his. "It's beautiful. It's one of the few places I feel at peace." He turned to face her. "Emma, I need to tell you something. About why I'm really keeping you here." Emma's heart raced. "I thought it was for protection. It's part of it. But there's more." He moved closer, and Emma could feel the heat radiating from him. "From the moment I woke up in that hospital and saw you, something changed. You looked at me like I was just a man who needed help, not a name or a reputation. Do you know how rare that is?" "Daniel, I don't understand." "I'm trying to say that keeping you safe isn't just about obligation or guilt. It's because the thought of losing you, of something happening to you because of me, it's unbearable." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "You've awakened something in me I thought was dead. Something good and clean and worth fighting for." Emma couldn't breathe. The intensity of his words, the raw emotion in his eyes, it was overwhelming. "This is happening too fast. We barely know each other." "I know. Believe me, I know how insane this sounds. But I also know what I feel is real." He stepped back, giving her space. "I'm not asking you to feel the same way. I'm just being honest with you because you deserve honesty." Emma's mind spun. Part of her wanted to run, to reject these feelings that were growing despite her better judgment. But another part, a part she didn't want to acknowledge, felt the same pull toward him. "I need time," she finally said. "Time to process all of this." Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you. A slight smile touched his lips. We have nothing but time. As Emma returned to her room, she knew that time was exactly what she needed. Time to understand her feelings. To see if what she felt for Daniel Cross was real or just a product of extraordinary circumstances. Time to decide if she could accept his world, with all its darkness and danger, but time was a luxury they wouldn't have for long. Because outside the estate's walls, the Castillo brothers were planning their next move. And it would test everything Daniel and Emma were beginning to feel for each other. 3 weeks passed in a strange rhythm. Emma adjusted to life at the estate, finding routines that gave her days structure. Mornings in the garden, afternoons reading in the library, evenings dining with Daniel when his business allowed. They talked for hours about everything and nothing, learning each other's stories, sharing dreams and fears. The connection between them deepened with each conversation. Emma discovered that beneath Daniel's hard exterior was a man who loved classical music, who could quote poetry, who had a dry sense of humor that made her laugh unexpectedly. Daniel found in Emma someone who challenged him, who wasn't afraid to disagree with him, who reminded him of the person he had wanted to be before circumstances made him into. Something else, but the outside world kept intruding. Reports came daily of moves and countermoves in the war with the Castillo brothers. Daniel's businesses were under constant attack. Emma could see the toll it took on him, the weight of decisions that meant life or death for people under his protection. One evening, Emma found Daniel in his study, staring at papers spread across his desk. His face was drawn, his shoulders tense. "What's wrong?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up, and the exhaustion in his eyes made her heart ache. The Castillo brothers offered a deal. They'll leave you alone if I give them complete control of the Eastern District. That's a third of my operation. What did you say? I told them no. Emma moved into the room. Why? Daniel, if giving them what they want will end this, why not do it? Because it won't end. They'll take that and then demand more. It's what they do. Give them an inch, they take everything. He stood and walked to the window. Besides, the Eastern District employs 3,000 people. Families depend on those jobs. Under the Castillo brothers, half would be gone within a month, and the rest would be working in conditions that should be criminal. So you're protecting them. I'm protecting what's mine. There's a difference, is there? Emma challenged. Because from where I stand, it looks like you're sacrificing your own safety. And mine. To protect people you claim not to care about. Daniel turned to face her, surprise in his expression. You think I care about them? I think you care more than you admit. I think beneath all this tough businessman exterior, you're still the boy your grandfather raised to believe in doing right by people. Something shifted in Daniel's expression. He crossed the room until he stood directly in front of her. How do you do that? Do what? See through me so clearly. Everyone else sees what I want them to see. But you see who I actually am, maybe because I'm not afraid of you. You should be. I'm dangerous, Emma. Everything about my life is dangerous, I know. But I'm still here. The air between them, charged with electricity, Daniel lifted his hand slowly, giving her time to move away, and gently cupped her face. His thumb traced her cheekbone, his touch tender despite his calloused hands. I'm falling in love with you, he said quietly. I've been fighting it because I know I shouldn't. You deserve better than someone like me. But I can't help it anymore. Emma's heart thundered in her chest. She had known this moment was coming, had felt the same feelings growing inside her despite trying to resist. Daniel, this is crazy. We've only known each other a few weeks. I know. But sometimes time doesn't matter. Sometimes you just know. His eyes searched hers. Tell me you don't feel it too, and I'll step back. I'll keep you safe like I promised, and I'll never mention this again. Emma knew she should lie. Should protect herself from the inevitable pain of loving someone whose world was so different from hers. But she had never been good at lying. I can't tell you that, she whispered. Because I do feel it, and it terrifies me. Daniel closed his eyes briefly, as if in relief or prayer. When he opened them, they blazed with intensity. I'm going to kiss you now. If you don't want that, tell me. Emma didn't tell him to stop. Instead, she rose on her toes and met him halfway. The kiss was everything she hadn't known she needed. Gentle at first, then deeper, a meeting of souls as much as bodies. Daniel's arms wrapped around her, careful of his healing injuries, holding her like she was precious and fragile. Emma's hands found their way into his hair, pulling him closer. Losing herself in the moment. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Daniel rested his forehead against hers. "This changes everything," he murmured. "I know. The Castillo brothers will see you as leverage now. My weakness. I'm not weak, and neither are you, for caring about someone." Daniel pulled back to look at her fully. "You're right. You're the strongest person I've ever met, and caring about you doesn't make me weak. It makes me want to be better to deserve you." They spent the rest of the evening together, talking and kissing, discovering each other in new ways. Emma felt alive in a way she never had before, as if every moment of her life had been leading to this man, its connection. But their peace was shattered the next morning. Emma woke to shouting outside. She rushed to her window and saw Robert running across the grounds, men mobilizing everywhere. Something was very wrong. She dressed quickly and found Helen in the hallway, her face pale. "What's happening?" "The Castillo brothers. They've kidnapped Daniel's younger cousin, Thomas. He's only 19. Emma's blood ran cold. "Where's Daniel?" "In the war room." "Miss Victoria, please stay here. It's not safe." But Emma was already moving toward the sound of Daniel's voice. She found him surrounded by his people, his face like carved stone. "They want a trade," Robert was saying. "Thomas, for you. They've given us 6 hours. "No deal," Daniel said flatly. "We hit them hard and fast. Every location we know about simultaneously. Sir, that will start a full war. Casualties will be high, and we pay that price. I will not negotiate with terrorists." "Daniel." "Wait," Emma said from the doorway. Everyone turned to look at her. Daniel's expression softened for just a moment before hardening again. "Emma, you shouldn't be here. If they want to trade me for Thomas, then let's make the trade." "Absolutely not. He's innocent. He's 19 years old. You can't sacrifice him because of me." Daniel crossed the room in 3 quick strides. "And I won't sacrifice you. Not for anyone. Not for anything. That's not your choice to make." "Yes, it is." His voice was steel. "I won't lose you, Emma. I can't." Emma saw the fear beneath his anger, the vulnerability he was trying to hide. "Then find another way. There has to be a way to get Thomas back and keep me safe." Robert cleared his throat. "Actually, sir, there might be." Everyone looked at him. Robert pulled up a map on the large screen. "The exchange is set for the old warehouse district. We know the area. If we position our people correctly, we could create a false extraction while actually taking the location by force." "They'll see it coming," Daniel objected. "Not if we give them what they expect. We show up with Miss Victoria, make it look like we're complying." They release Thomas. "The moment he's clear, we attack from all sides." "You're asking me to use Emma as bait?" "I'm offering a strategy that might save everyone." Daniel ran his hands through his hair, the gesture revealing his stress. He looked at Emma, conflict clear in his eyes. "No, it's too dangerous." "Daniel," Emma said softly, moving closer to him. "Let me do this. Let me help save Thomas. I can't risk you. You risk your people every day. Let me be one of them. Let me help." They stared at each other, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Daniel turned to Robert. "Plan it perfectly. Triple the backup positions. If anything goes wrong, we pull her out immediately." The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Emma was fitted with a bulletproof vest hidden under her clothes. Robert explained the plan repeatedly, making sure she understood every detail. Daniel stayed close, his face an unreadable mask, but his eyes never leaving her. As the time for the exchange approached, Daniel pulled Emma aside. They stood in his study, the room where they had shared their first kiss just hours ago. "I need you to promise me something," he said, taking both her hands. "If things go wrong, if it looks like they're going to take you, I need you to run. Don't wait for me. Don't try to be brave. Just run, Daniel. Promise me, Emma. I can't do this unless you promise. She saw the naked fear in his eyes and understood this was tearing him apart. I promise. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. When this is over, when you're safe, we're going to have a long talk about our future. Because I want one with you. A real one. I want that too. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, as if trying to memorize the taste of her lips. When he pulled away, his expression had transformed into the dangerous man who commanded respect and fear. Let's go get Thomas back. The warehouse district was abandoned and eerie in the late afternoon light. Emma sat in the back of the SUV, Daniel beside her, Robert driving. Behind them, more vehicles followed, but at a careful distance to avoid alerting the Castillo brothers. Remember the plan, Robert said for the 10th time. We walk in together. They show us Thomas is alive. We exchange. The moment Thomas crosses to our side, you drop flat. We'll handle the rest. Emma nodded, her mouth dry with fear. Daniel squeezed her hand. His jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscles working. They stopped in front of a large warehouse with broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. Figures moved in the shadows. Emma could feel eyes watching them. Last chance to back out, Daniel murmured. Not a chance. They exited the vehicle. Daniel kept Emma slightly behind him as they approached the warehouse. The doors opened, and 3 men emerged. The one in the center was clearly the leader, tall and scarred, with eyes that held no mercy. Daniel Cross, the man said, his voice carrying a Spanish accent. You've been a difficult man to negotiate with, Miguel Castillo. Where's my cousin? Miguel gestured, and 2 more men brought out Thomas. The boy was bruised and terrified, but alive, as promised. Now the nurse. Daniel's hand tightened on Emma's. She could feel him vibrating with tension, every muscle ready to explode into action. She stepped forward. No tricks, Cross, Miguel warned, or the boy dies right here. No tricks, Daniel agreed, though his voice promised violence. Emma walked slowly toward Miguel, each step taking her further from Daniel's protection. She could see Thomas's eyes widen as he realized what was happening. Miguel's men grabbed her arms roughly when she got close, and she had to fight not to react. Now release Thomas, Daniel demanded. Miguel nodded, and his men pushed Thomas forward. The boy stumbled toward Daniel, who caught him and immediately pulled him back toward the vehicles. This was it. The moment in the plan, Emma dropped to the ground, just as gunfire erupted from every direction. Daniel's people had been positioned in the surrounding buildings, creating a killing field. Miguel's men scattered, some returning fire, others diving for cover. Emma crawled desperately toward cover, her heart pounding. Bullets whizzed overhead, ricocheting off metal and concrete. She made it behind a rusted container, just as one of Miguel's men spotted her. He raised his gun, and Emma closed her eyes, but the shot never came. Daniel appeared like an avenging angel, tackling the man and disarming him with brutal efficiency. Despite his healing injuries, he moved with deadly grace. Stay down, he shouted at Emma, then turned back to the fight. The battle was intense, but brief. Daniel's superior numbers and tactical positions overwhelmed the Castillo brothers' people. Within minutes, it was over. Miguel Castillo lay wounded but alive. Being restrained by Robert's team, Daniel came to Emma immediately, pulling her up and checking her for injuries. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Daniel, you're bleeding. He looked down at his side where his shirt was soaked red. He had torn open his injuries in the fight. It doesn't matter. You're safe. It does matter. Come on, back to the estate. Now, the vehicle racing back to safety. Emma held pressure on Daniel's wounds while Robert coordinated securing the area and processing prisoners. Thomas sat quietly in the front seat, still in shock but unharmed. You saved him, Emma said softly to Daniel. We saved him. You were so brave, Emma. Too brave. I learned from watching you. Back at the estate, Emma insisted on treating Daniel's injuries herself, refusing to let the estate's doctor handle it. In his private bathroom, she carefully cleaned and restitched the wounds that had opened during the fight. You need to be more careful, she scolded gently. These injuries could have killed you if they'd been worse. Couldn't let them take you. I couldn't stand by and watch. I know, but you need to heal. Promise me you'll rest now. Daniel caught her hand as she finished bandaging him. Come with me. He led her to his bedroom, a space she hadn't entered before. It was surprisingly simple compared to the rest of the estate, with clean lines and minimal decoration. He lay down on the bed, pulling her down beside him. Just rest with me for a while, he said softly. I need to know you're really here, really safe. Emma settled against his uninjured side, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. They lay in comfortable silence as evening turned to night. What happens now? Emma finally asked. With the Castillo brothers? Miguel will make a deal. He knows he's beaten. We'll have peace, at least for a while. And us. Daniel shifted to look down at her. I meant what I said earlier. I want a future with you, Emma. A real one. I know my world is dangerous and complicated, but I'm going to work to make it better. For you, for us. I don't need you to change your whole world. I just need you to make space for me in it. You're not just in my world, Emma. You've become my world. He kissed her forehead tenderly. I love you. I know it's fast, I know it's crazy, but it's true. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. I love you too, Daniel. Despite everything, despite all the reasons I shouldn't, I do. They made love that night, slowly and carefully, mindful of his injuries, but driven by the need to express what they felt. It was tender and passionate, a claiming and a surrender all at once. Afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, they talked about the future. Daniel promised to gradually shift his businesses toward legitimate operations. Emma decided she wanted to open a free clinic using some of Daniel's resources, serving the communities that depended on him. They would find a way to blend their worlds, to build something good from the chaos that had brought them together. The next morning, Emma woke in Daniel's arms, sunlight streaming through the windows. She had never felt more at peace, more certain of where she belonged. Good morning, Daniel murmured, kissing her neck. How do you feel? Perfect. Complete. Good, because I have something to ask you. He reached into the bedside drawer and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, a simple but beautiful diamond that caught the morning light. Emma Victoria, I know we've only known each other a month. I know this is insane and too fast. But I also know I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? Emma looked at the ring, at Daniel's hopeful, vulnerable expression, at the future they could build together. A month ago, she had been a simple nurse with a quiet life. Now she was in love with a complicated, dangerous, wonderful man who had changed everything, she said, laughing through happy tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Daniel slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her deeply. Outside, the estate came alive with morning activity. Beyond the walls, challenges still waited, but inside this room, in each other's arms. Emma and Daniel had found something rare and precious. They had found love in the most unexpected place, forged in danger and tested by fire, and they both knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The nurse who had saved a wounded stranger in a storm had found her destiny, and the millionaire who had lived in darkness had found his light. Together, they would build a future neither had dared to imagine. Their story had begun with violence and fear, but it would continue with love, hope, and the unshakable belief that even in the darkest circumstances, two hearts could find each other and create something beautiful.